joining me. I am apparently not allowed to get a night's rest until I get these messages out. They've been bugging me for last couple of nights, and I'm like, no, DMs, I don't want to do messages for you right now. I'm doing my DF thing. You leave me be. But, I did invite them in to come and talk to me so I could do this channel and bring messages to y'all. So, I can't withhold for too long. In any case, so I know in the past what you're used to is me doing the DM channeled messages with this screen, but this is going to be a DM update. And these are, I want to say first, I keep hearing and seeing the name Max. I don't know exactly what the connection is. Like, I don't know a Max personally. And there are other DMs in there also, but that name in particular is coming out. So, for whoever it is that has a DM named Max, I don't know why I don't know why they're reaching out to me just yet, but it might be part of this message because when I keep thinking about this much, I'm like, I should mention that name just for whoever whoever has it. Anyways, so the DMs right now are in a space of like there's been a lot of karmic rebalancing. And a lot of them have been in placation energy for a long time with their families, with their jobs, with their karmics, things like that, even with you. And like, especially if you have been reasonably emotionally stable and you've shown them that you love them unconditionally, they probably put you way back, not even on the back burner, like in the back shelf, like not worried about it at all space, right? But the universe was like, hey, it's my time to shine. Like, that's a good song, by the way, for DFs. And part of that also was, well, getting everybody out of complacency, right? But these DMs, they've had, there's been all sorts of shakeups, especially with the big alignments, the last few eclipses. We're about to have another eclipse in 2 days, one in Gemini. And, like, it's actually the last of, like, we had most of our eclipses, solar and lunar, on the Gemini Sag axis. And no, that doesn't mean they were all in Gemini Sag. It's a long, detailed astrologer thing. But this will be the last one. And so there are some really big shifts coming, and we're going to be on the Taurus Scorpio axis, which is going to be kinky. In any case, so these DMs right now, though, it's beautiful because what I what I keep being shown in so many different ways between visions and thoughts and different things is that they are like they've been doing a lot of healing. I think a lot of people a lot of DFs especially get stuck in a space of like, if I can't see it, I don't believe it. No, you got it fucking backwards. When you believe it, you will see it. That's how manifesting works. That's how psychology works. That's how it works, right? You won't see it until you already know it's true. So it has been happening. It's already been there. But time is not linear. So while it is always happening at the same time, it's one of those it's always happening, it has happened, and it will happen sort of things. Like, you will see what you are ready to see, what you believe you deserve to see, and what you believe they're deserving of seeing. Like, that's the way that it works. So, they've been doing their healing, though there's been like a massive upshift because a lot of DMs, like, they've been doing a lot of work, though they've been stuck. A lot of DFs were stuck too. Like, it's interesting because I know a lot of DFs that have been in situations similar to the one that I've been describing in my other more personal videos, and it's like, you know, things happen and like relocation energy or a job change or contact no contact with twins, stuff like that, and a lot of people get into this like, oh, all these bad things are happening to me, nah, 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 nah. Like, that's not true. Like, things are shifting. They're getting, like, think about the people that you release. Think about the room that you have to bring in new new experiences, new jobs, new money, new things going on, and the DMs are kind of they're kind of in a mixture of spaces, right? There's been this collective thing going on with a lack of ability to grieve things. It's like come up repeatedly. And it's interesting because I was talking about it with someone earlier about like what is grieving? Like, what is grieving for? Like, what's the result at the end of grieving that we should expect to feel or sense or something? And it was funny because both of us kind of sat there and like I realized I asked that question and I didn't even have an answer at first. But then the answer was obvious. It's becoming whole again. Like, grieving is not supposed to be this thing to where this pain just becomes less and less in your heart. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, yes, that's true, but that's not ultimately what it is when you feel whole again, when you feel grateful for the things that you've gone through, when you feel grateful for the experiences that have happened. And a lot of these DMs have not gotten there yet, especially if they're like a male masculine, like they identify as male, they grew up being trained and conditioned with the male ego and stuff like that. Like being in a space of like holding on to grief because they don't understand how to process it, right? So the like grieving is not supposed to be like it's not supposed to be a thing that you hold. It's like it's a process. It's a space of going from like whether you change jobs or relationships or someone your family died or things of that nature, breakups, divorces, disillusions, you name it. Grieving is like it's a verb, right? Like grief even is kind of a verb in its own space. Like it's a process of getting back to wholeness, right? And a lot of the times these DMs like they'll even like initiate separation or get DFs to initiate separation because there'll be times that like DFs will recognize that they have not grieved something or they're holding on to something and they need to go through the process of it, and they are afraid of that because they've been taught you're not supposed to feel things, you're not supposed to talk about things, you're supposed to be a man, right? You're supposed to don't be better to be a jerk than a pushover kind of stuff, right? And a lot of them also assumed that all love was temporary and that all men are players and all women are dramatic and users and all sorts of like they got all sorts of stuff that they had to work through. Like it's not as easy as it looks. I mean, if you look back and think about your journey, look at all the stuff that you had to work on. You probably had some stuff to work on with codependence and figuring out the difference between empathic abilities versus empathy and sympathy and things like that. You had to release family and stuff like that, be able to pick yourself up, do things on your own, prove that you don't need to be with someone else to feel happy, get to a space to where you're comfortable on your own so that when relationships do come in, when you invite them in or allow them in, you're not dependent on them. Like a lot of DMs are going through similar things, but they've likely gone through it in different ways because, fortunately and unfortunately, male and female egos have been very separate for a long time. They've been very different. And it's not even that they are that different, but we have created a separation. Get it? Right? So these DMs now are in a space to where grief what do you call it? Grief has beholden them, become them. I'm thinking of that movie Death Becomes Her. I don't know why, but like that's the image that came into my mind of like the grieving process going on, but it's like it's overcoming them. Maybe that's the word. Grief has overcome them. There's a lot of things going on in their lives. There's a lot of things that they kind of just swept under the rug. I'll deal with it later. I got to make more money. I'll deal with it later. I got to fix the plumbing. I'll deal with it later. My family's had a crisis. I'll deal with it later. I got to do this stuff for the kids. I'll deal with, you know what I mean? Like again and again and again. And now it's like this big pile of stuff, you know what I mean? And they're in a place where they're recognizing that grief is not like it's not a bad thing. It's not a refusal to let go. It's a process of becoming whole again. And the way to release those old feelings, those heavy, heavy energies is through them, is feeling them, is letting yourself think about them, but not getting stuck in the story of them. And a lot of these DMs are like they've been in a space to where they've been it's almost like not eating, you know what I mean? Like a fasting of emotions. They've just gone cold when they really should have been facing a lot of their emotions. They should have gone through and releasing X's, releasing control, going towards that wholeness. But instead they've been, in more repeat situations like they were in the past, and then thinking, you know what, this just is the way that it is. But then, they have to have a delightful divine feminine like you beguiling them and showing them that these rules are nonsense. You don't have to follow any of them. You know what I mean? You don't have to draw, you don't have to color inside the lines. You don't even have to color inside the coloring book. You could color on the walls if you want to, and that just it's hard to look away from. It's hard to unknow that after you know it. And a lot of these DMs have come to a place where it's kind of like the pimple that's, ready to burst on its own sort of thing. Like, you don't even want to touch it. It aches so freaking bad, but it's going to burst on its own. And so these DMs are now like, you know what? There's so much on my plate. There's so much going on. There's so many towers happening that there's no ability to not feel the feelings at this point. Spirits just kind of like their guides are like, look, I mean, you can try to ignore it if you want, but your own ego is manifesting enough of these situations that we're just going to continue to push it a little bit. We might even push DF your way a little bit. We might create some chaos over here and over there because you keep asking for it to get better. And we keep giving you signs on how to get to a space where it feels better. And you keep going, oh no, what will people think? Or, oh no, I might be alone. Or, oh no, I might have to start over. Well, the more that you stay in this situation and ask for it to get better or be less chaotic or to have real love or to be treated with respect, the more you're going to be disrespected by the people that were disrespecting you in the first place. The more you're going to invite in the ridicule you're afraid of. The more you're going to feel the feelings you don't want to feel. And a lot of these DMs have been back and forth fighting with, their karmics, both family members, romantics, people at work, stuff like that. A lot of them are looking at losing their jobs, or, they've had various different situations go on that they weren't expecting, like that just threw in way more chaos. And it's getting them to the point to where there's nothing else that they can think of except for their feelings. And of course, anybody that they're entangled with that was benefiting off of them being, cold, icy, or at least emotionally numb, constipated, things like that, is upset because DMs are in their feels. And the only thing that they can do to not show that they're in their feels is basically be grumpy, and just be snappy. And that's, of course, not creating good situations, it's creating more fights. But it is helping to a degree, though, because it's getting DMs some well deserved time to themselves. And it's getting people to back off and give them some space. But in that space, of course, that's the space that these DMs have been afraid to go to, because when they go to that quiet space, guess who they think about? When they look around, guess what they see? They probably got some stuff from their DF. They've got a picture or toys or gifts or something. There's something that they hold on to, pictures of you guys, or they might feel called to get on social media or whatever thing it is. Like, that's where they go. And in the past, it's been like either the karmic would come in and cause something, and so they'd stop thinking about it, or they would have been in just a balanced enough place that they could just like shut it down and go do something else. But now they can't. Like, their life is in upheaval. There's a lot of tower stuff going on, and they're recognizing that those feelings aren't going to go away. They're not ignorable feelings. They're not feelings that just pop up to torture them. Like, obviously, they've been around for a while. A lot of these DMs have been mixed up with karmics for years, maybe even decades, maybe in and out and in between of seeing DF, right? Like, but what they're telling me is like, you know what? Okay, okay. Oh, it almost like that, the white flag, but like from the Looney Tunes, like, what is it, Wile E. Coyote? Like, I surrender. I surrender. And you know what? I surrender. I'm ready to go through the grief. I'm ready to feel the feelings. I'm ready to become who I need to become to feel like I deserve to be with someone like Divine Feminine, especially for those of you that have worked on your self love and your emotional security, and you're glowing up, you're doing your thing, you're connecting with community, you're being you. And you're not like all in and out of, oh, do I need a soulmate? And what's my twin flame doing? And da 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 da. Especially those of you that could talk about it comfortably no matter where you're at. Like, just being yourself wherever you are. And that is helping you level up, because you don't have all the weight of all the shadows of who will think what, and what if I'm alone, what if I'm together, any of that stuff. You're just doing you. And they're seeing that, and it almost is like some of them are in a space of like, they know that when the time is right, when the time is divine, that they'll align with you. They're not in a space of like, oh my gosh, she'll never take me back. It's more like, I just got this like bratty feeling of like, they know that you will definitely take them back, though you're not going to do it until they come up to meet you and they match your vibration, they match your effort, they match your ability to hustle and flow while remaining humble and grateful the whole time. Like they know that. And they're they're happy for that. Though they're not there yet, but they are getting there. Now, for those of you that have been in no contact situations, some are going to last a little bit longer, but because the full moon coming is in Gemini, it's very likely that there's going to be actual communication, either by the phone or by text or something along those lines. And, be graceful. If it's been a while, they're probably going to be a little bit shaky about it, or they might open up with something that's like, something you'd expect to hear from someone you talk to regularly who hasn't been an extreme jerk. But that's okay. Like, let them be that way. Let them do the lukewarm opening. It's taking a lot to get there. And some of them might even be tearful. A few of them might be drunk. It's okay. Just, enjoy it for what it is. Don't be looking at it as like, oh my gosh, what does this mean and where's this going and stuff like that. Like, if you're listening to this message, you really probably should be in a place where you're already comfortable enjoying each moment as it is with whomever, but especially when it comes to your DM. And also recognize, like, you don't have to be like ready every single moment for like, oh my gosh, is this it? Oh, are they going to come in and out? Like, when you get out of that energy, you're no longer worried about what it is, and you're just like, oh, awesome, I get to talk to my DM today. That's fucking cool. And then the next day you don't talk, the next week, the next month, the next fucking year you don't talk, and you're still like, hey, that's awesome. Right? Like, that's where you want to be for you. And that's going to be super attractive to DMs too. Like, do you know how many people they have on them that are like constantly in that energy of like, pick me, pick me, pick me. Why didn't you choose me? Why aren't you saving me? Why aren't you rescuing me? Why are you talking to them? Why aren't you doing this? Like, ugh. Even just talking about it is like, ugh, right? Like, no. You just be like, hey, DM, how you doing? I see you're still working on that healing and grieving and becoming whole. And I'm so fucking proud of you. So when we're done talking, I'm gonna go back to my thing. Like don't have an attachment to any of it either way. Like you can unconditionally love them without being attached to outcomes. You got a long life ahead of you. Enjoy it. DMs will line up with you much sooner when you're in that energy than when you're in desperation energy. Now, as I said, a lot of these DMs are on the move. There's going to be communication coming in for many. Most of the time, it'll be good, though, depending. I mean, if you got a DM that's got a lot of fire sign placements in their chart, it might be a bit bratty. It might be fiery. If they got a lot of water sign placements, it might be deeply emotional or more than you expect, or it might be no emotion at all. It could be like King of Cups stuff. Like, it could be dry, and maybe they're just approaching, like, if you got some legal stuff or something like that, or maybe they, I don't know. Communication could be a little bit rocky. Enjoy it. Just enjoy it anyways. Look for what you can feel grateful in. Find something to be delighted about it, even if it's not the most delightful thing. And then just go back to enjoying what you were doing already. Just like you will and would when union is actually fully secured and you can tell everybody about it. Like it shouldn't be the whole meal. It should be, the cherry on top, the dessert after you have the main entree. Feed yourself, fill your own cup, and enjoy what gets added to it that you consent to without worrying about it not being there, like, because your cup's already full, your plate's already full, you already got a beautiful meal in front of you to enjoy, whether DM is there with you or not. And trust me, while you're sitting there enjoying your beautiful steak dinner with your salad and your sourdough and everything that you like with it, they're going to be sitting over there in their karmic situations looking over at your meal, sure wishing that they were over there enjoying a meal with you. And that's going to get them there a lot faster. And the other part is keep the faith in them. You're probably the only one in their lives that actually has faith in them, and that it's not only super attractive, it's helpful. It really is. So trust them, have faith in them, look for what you see as positive momentum in upward directions, and don't worry about the rest. Just worry, because remember, what you see reflected in your DM or anyone else in the world is the main energy that you're sitting in. You're reflecting it. So if you're seeing negative stuff, or you're like, oh, grief, or oh, this, or oh, that, well, that's your energy. You won't even be able to know if that's really even their energy until you're out of that energy. So you work on you, let them work on them, enjoy your experiences, make sure to come back and check out some other videos. I'll do some more like this so we can spy on what DMs are doing and whatnot. And I'll see you in the other videos too.